What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to Advanced Apple Music. In this video, we're going to dig a little bit deeper into song mixes and start looking at limiting and organizing our rules. So what we're going to be doing is setting up kind of a basic radio station, which is one of my most used song mixes. So in a previous video, I showed you how to mix different playlists together, and that works pretty well when you've got an approximately equal number of songs in each playlist, or if you're just happy with the ratio as it is. If you're happy that one playlist has a couple thousand songs, the other has a couple hundred, and you just end up hearing mostly songs from that larger playlist. But let's say that you don't want it that way. So if you don't make some adjustments to that, you're basically just going to end up listening to that larger playlist on shuffle just because of the sheer volume of songs in one playlist versus another. So today we're going to set up a pretty basic version of what I call a radio station. So for me, the biggest thing that I used to miss about the radio is that it brought up a pretty solid mix of songs I hadn't heard yet, a bunch of really recent, so-called hot songs, and then also would layer in some all-time favorites amongst those. And so we're going to be trying to recreate that today from using our music library. So we're going to start this out just like any other song mix. We're going to add a new library, and we're going to use the songs section. And we're going to dive right into the settings. If you hold down on that and click on edit. So we're going to be setting up a number of different rule groups for this one. And similar to other song mixes that we've done, there's going to be one rule group for each type of song that we want to show up in this mix. So we're going to go into Smart Rules here. And the first rule group that we're going to set up is to have any songs that have 0 plays and are loved. So this rule setup is pretty easy. We're just going to do a filter, and we're going to do like status is loved, and then the other filter is pretty easy. It's just going to be play count is 0. Now, if you're just starting out with Apple Music and you've ported over your music from another service, you're going to want to limit how many songs show up in here. In my case, since I've gone through, using this setup actually, this radio mix, I've listened to all my love songs. This rule group as it is only going to show me the new songs that I've added to my library recently. So there's a lot of times where I go through an album pretty quickly and I'll skip around through a song, just getting a feel for it and make a quick call as to whether I love it or not to have it added to my library. And as a result, that song won't show up as being listened to. And so what this rule group does for me is it makes sure that I end up listening to every loved song. So if there's a song with 0 plays, I'm going to hear it at some point through using this radio mix. Now, if you do have a backlog of unlistened songs, you have a few options. The first is to limit this rule group to songs you've added in the last month. So you can either use my Apple Music solution for this and do playlist is, and then found sounds last month. So this will limit it. Adding this right here will limit it to only songs that have been added in the last month or so. But you could also do a quick and easy filter of just putting date added is in the last. Yep, we'll keep that. And you could do 31 days or however many days. So you do have that as one option. The other thing you can do to start chipping away at some of those unlistened songs, if you did port your entire library over, is you can try and filter them into this mix as well. So what I did for a while, instead of having that in there, is I just left it like this, and I also added a limit here. Now, one thing that's important to keep in mind, not as much on this one, but let's say that I want 5. So I want 5 songs that I've loved and haven't listened to yet that aren't a part of my last month playlist. This is going to always pull in those same 5 songs in order of how they show up just in your music library. So there's a really important ordering here and combination of different rules or filters or whatever you want to call them. But you can add a sort option, and we can put that before this limit here of maximum items of 5, and we can sort by shuffled. So this is going to go right down in order. So it's going to take your library and get rid of all the songs that aren't loved and leave it with that. Then it's going to get rid of all the songs with any kind of a play count. And then what happens next is it's going to shuffle what's left and then limit it down to 5. Now, this isn't as important with this rule group because as songs are listened to, they're just not going to show up. But we'll see in some of my upcoming groups that we're going to do just how this might be a problem. So for now, though, that was just kind of a quick overview of what these parts look like. We're going to keep it to just have any songs that are unplayed that are loved show up in this rule group section. And what we're going to do is back out of this rule group. And one thing while we're here before we move on, one thing I'd recommend doing is to take a quick second to rename any rule groups, especially if you end up having a number of different sources you're pulling in. So all you have to do in order to do this is just swipe this over. I can't do it with the mouse. Swipe it over to the right, and you can click on rename, and we'll just call this one like zero plays or something like that. Rename it. And so now we know that this rule group right here is how we get the zero plays. And this is really helpful for troubleshooting. So if you end up having, some problems where you're not seeing a certain type of song that you wanted, this by renaming this, you can easily go in and see if you need to adjust the order of things or something like that. So to get to the next kind of songs of the month, my Found Sounds last month playlist tends to hover between 85 and 150 songs at any given time. I want this total mix that we're working on with all these rules to be somewhere around 40 to 60 songs. So what I want to do is pull in another 20 songs from my Found Sounds last month, or the songs that I've bumped into over the last month that I like. So I'm going to make another rule group, and I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to add my Found Sounds last month as kind of the backbone for this playlist. So this is where, my first video I showed you how I have a number of smart playlists set up in Apple Music. This is where those really come in handy because it becomes so easy to just zero in on exactly what I'm looking for. So if I do Found Sounds last month, what I'm going to do then is I want to pull in about 20 songs, but I definitely want them to be shuffled. So similar into that last one, what I'm going to do is, again, add a sort. I'm going to sort by shuffled, and then I'm going to narrow it down to we'll leave it at 25 songs. So you can see here, this is where the shuffling happening before the limiting would actually be important, because if I didn't do this on any given day, I would have the same, if this was up here, it would take this playlist in the order that it is, and it would limit it to 25 songs, and then it would just shuffle those same 25 songs. So every time it pulled this through, the same 25 songs would show up before they were shuffled. So this is why it's really important to have this shuffled first, because now it's going to take my playlist, shuffle them all up, and then in that new order, it's going to limit it down to 25 songs. So I'm going to back out of these rules. And then, like I said, I'm going to rename this, and we'll just put this for something along the lines of Last Month Loved. And what we're going to do is just back out of here and see what we've got. I only have one song in my library so far that's loved and not listened to. And for some reason, it's not pulling up the other songs. So this is exactly what I'm talking about with troubleshooting. Okay. So just need to change this all down here to an any. So now it'll pull in anything that meets this requirement and anything that meets this requirement. That's a really easy thing to miss if you end up not getting any results. So if I back out of here, now I have 26 songs. So I've got the 25 songs from my last month love that are shuffled, and then I have the one song that I have zero play count on there. Let's add a quick and easy rule group now. So we're going to go back in here, add another rule group. And this one's going to be super easy. I just like having, just 5 songs that are rated 5 stars. No filters on when they've been listened to last or anything like that. These are the songs that are all-time favorites. So even if I had this song show up a number of times, it wouldn't bother me. So in this rule group, I'm going to put in a filter for rating. And we'll do is 5. And then I'm just going to do a simple sort of shuffled, and I'm going to limit it to 5 songs. So if you use playlists for your top songs instead of rating them, it's super easy to adjust that. You can just change this rating to playlist. Let's say you had a playlist that was like all-time favorites. You could just do playlist is all-time favorites, shuffled, and then maximum item for 5 stars. I would recommend going into iTunes if you can and rating all the songs based on all those playlists. So when I moved over from Spotify, I had yearly playlists of songs that I liked, and then a playlist of my best songs of the year. And what I did is I just went in and all the songs that were in the playlists of the songs that I liked, I just rated 3 stars. And then the best of the year playlist, I moved all those to 4 stars. And then I just go through my 4 stars and listen to anything and just spot anything that should be bumped up to 5. It's pretty quick and easy. It wasn't perfect for sure, but as I've gone through all these songs, I think that I've gotten a pretty good handle on things. And the nice part about using ratings instead of playlists is that you can adjust them on the fly versus having to remove the song from a playlist. Let's say that you have a song in this is a 4 star playlist, like a best of the year, but not best all time. If you want to change that to best all time, you have to move it to different playlists. Or if you want to, even worse, downgrade a song, put it into a 3 star, you'd have to remove it from 1 or 2 playlists and add it to another one. It's just kind of a pain to have to do that. And ratings, it just adjusts everything in the background on that, which is very convenient. And we will back out of here and we will rename this one All Time Faves. All right, and then finally, let's add one more source of music into here. So, last one I'd like to do is just add in some top songs from the last year or so. These are going to be songs that I like a lot, are still pretty recent, but it's been a while since I've last played them. So, I've got a really useful playlist with a rolling last month of top songs. So, those would be my 4 or 5 star songs, and just over the last year, it collects all of them. And I'm going to use that as a base. You don't necessarily need to have a smart playlist set up for that. You don't have to copy that one exactly. You can instead just put in date added as in the last 12 months and rating is greater than 3, or playlist is, one of your top song playlists. But for me, it makes it much easier for a lot of these radio stations. I have other ones that I'll be showing you in the future to be able to quickly pull in just my top songs over the last year that fit whatever kind of category I'm going to do. So I'm going to do a filter. I'm going to do a playlist, and then my playlist is in my utilities thing right here. And I've got rolling 4 star songs over the last year. And so that just immediately will pull in, you saw about 275 songs that I've rated 4 or 5 stars over the last year. Now it's going to get a little bit tricky here. So what I'm trying to do is pull in songs that I haven't listened to in the longest out of this playlist. So I basically want to hear the ones that it's been the longest since I've last heard them. What I'm going to do in order to do that is I'm going to add a sort order, and we're going to use the last played and put it as ascending. So now it's going to take this playlist and it's going to organize it in terms of when I last played the song from oldest to most recently played, with the oldest ones at the top. And then in this case, what I'm actually going to do is a double limit. So what I want to do is I want to take 35 or so of these songs. So let's limit this down to, let's say 35. I want to shuffle them up and then pick 5 songs to actually show up in my mix. And I'll explain why in just a second. So we're going to do sort and we're going to do shuffled. So it's going to take this 35 songs that it's been the longest that I've played them off of this playlist. It's going to shuffle them, and then I'm going to add another limit here, and I'm going to narrow it down to 5. The reason why I do this is because different Apple devices take different amounts of time to report plays. It's incredibly annoying. But if I just limited it, if I skip this maximum items 35 and just changed it to 5 and then deleted these 2 things, there would be times where I would listen to some songs on here on my iPad and then switch over. Let's say I go biking and I'm listening to on my phone using the same mix, and the same 5 songs will almost certainly show up because for some reason it takes between 3 to 36 hours for play counts to show up across all devices. I don't know why that's the case. Ratings, in my experience, and making playlists show up immediately, but they just can't seem to figure out getting the play counts and play times synced in that same speed. So what I do is I take 35, randomly mix them up, and then pick 5. And what that does is that it will lower the likelihood that I bump into the same songs while Apple Music is syncing everything in the background as far as play counts. So now I've added 5 of my 35 least recently played songs to this mix, and we will back out of here. I'll rename this last year top songs. Can be anything you want. Back out, and then we should see we've got about 36 songs, which makes sense. We've got five from my last year favorite songs. We've got five all-time faves. We've got one song I've never played that's loved, and then 25 songs from my last month. So it's got a really good mix of different new and old songs, all-time favorites, and just really kind of recreates a little bit of that radio station feel, except that obviously this is completely based around my own preferences. So this is one of my go-to mixes. I'll just fire this up when I just don't feel like choosing albums or something like that. And I mean, there's almost zero times where I'm going to be skipping songs. Um, and there's a lot of times where I'm like, oh, I forgot about this song. I haven't listened to it in forever. So definitely a good start for starting to build some more complex song mixes, and a good start for picking music when you don't want to actually use your brain to do so. As always, let me know in the comments if you have any questions or anything you'd like to see a video on, and really appreciate you watching.